to MINDSHOCK. This is your host, Bruce McGuire, and we are going over a topic long overdue: post-apocalyptic zombie movies. Probably my favorite subgenre. Not genre, but subgenre. Plenty to discuss here. And obviously, with some conspiratorial tie ins, that there might be some Illuminati predictive programming built into all of these. So we'll be going over that and more in typical Mind Shock fashion with logic and reason at the forefront. If you want to help support the podcast, you can donate to our PayPal. Check the link in the description. Make sure to subscribe, like, and share. Twitter, Facebook, Reddit, Patreon. Patrons do get priority for case topic, logical analysis, co-podcast requests. You could also be a guest on the podcast. Depending on your tier, questions, comments, theories, thoughts, suggestions, rebuttals, debunkings of any kind, leave them in the comments section. Or, of course, if you're with us here live, drop them in the live chat. You could also become a YouTube member right here on YouTube. Help support the channel that way. Questions, comments, theories, thoughts, suggestions, rebuttals, debunkings of any kind, leave them in the comments section. Okay, so first of all, what is it about zombie movies and the post-apocalyptic overlap? I mean, there really aren't that many zombie movies that aren't also post-apocalyptic. However, there are plenty of post-apocalyptic films that are not specifically zombie films. And then, of course, there's the differentiation between virus-type zombies, which are technically wouldn't be zombies, they'd be infected, and actual undead, which are of the usually supernatural variety. So what's interesting is the rules for all these zombies are there's an evolution of rules, which we'll go over in different movies. And then also there's quite a few zombie adjacent films, which are also kind of fun. Now, what is it about these movies that are just so much fun? Is it perhaps a genetic memory of resets on the post-apocalyptic front? I mean, how many times has some kind of a plague wiped out humanity? Now, whether or not there are undead versus plague, virus-type plague, that's definitely interesting, but it's not necessarily pertinent to whether or not a reset happened and what the aftermath of a reset would look like. So is part of the reason post-apocalyptic movies are so interesting and resonate with so many people is the genetic memory of all these empty cities post-apocalypse. Now, obviously, there are a lot of social commentaries in some of these movies, especially Night of the Living Dead, Dawn of the Dead, like the Living Dead series. Romero definitely had some commentary on consumerism and greed and just this never-ending cycle that leads to destruction. Is it that simple, though? Perhaps zombification is the lack of a soul, NPC-type individuals, that, the mob rule individuals, like when mobs just get, well, how would it be described? Like mobs riot, they just turn to some kind of hive mind where logic and reason is shut off, and people just operate as a horde. And then, so that's interesting as well. So in post-apocalyptic films, zombies or not, there's some kind of fall of society in which hordes and horde mentality play a role. So that's kind of interesting. So is this not just predictive programming? Is it historical reveals by the powers that be through Hollywood films? Welcome, Read Deeply, Sarah Catherine, Austin MP. Read Deeply asks, why do we enjoy extreme fear? You can vilify if someone doesn't have a soul. Well, see, that's curious too, because in a lot of zombie movies, if there's a cure, the zombies can be cured and returned to regular humans. So that's interesting too, just all these different rule sets in these films. But let's go through. I'm going to go through my top movies, and we'll see. I'm not going to start with the best one. I'm going to start with the one I watched the most recently. Bonus points for anyone who can pick the film. And it is technically not I'll give you a clue. It's not zombies. They're not undead. So it's more zombie adjacent. It's actually really cool and unique. It's a post-apocalyptic zombie adjacent film. Post 2000. Let's see if anybody can guess. Ryan asks, would you consider They Live, is it They Live or They Lived post-apocalyptic? That's not post-apocalyptic. Could call that, yeah, that's not post-apocalyptic. There's no fall of civilization. I think you mean They Live, right? And then technically they're interdimensional reptilian, yeah, with the sunglasses, interdimensional reptilians, David Icke style. They're not zombies. They're not the dead come back to life or infected with a virus. They're simply a different species. Reed Deeply says Mad Max is all I can think of. Mad Max is post-apocalyptic, but it's not a zombie movie. It is really good, though. I like Call me crazy. I like Waterworld, too. Waterworld's one of my favorite Costner movies, and I'm not a Costner fan. Waterworld is so much fun. That's not the movie I'm talking about, though. I'm talking about zombie adjacent. Waterworld is not zombie adjacent. All right. Nobody can think of it. Let me put the poster on the screen. It is this incredible piece of cinema known as Doomsday from 2008, featuring the original Lara Croft model. Sarah Catherine says, I've only seen one zombie movie. That is astounding. Which one? Doomsday from 2008 was a very interesting premise. I don't know how far into spoilers we're going to get. If anybody wants to watch it, I won't spoil it. But it is just absolutely bonkers. Let me put up just an image from this. See, I didn't watch any trailers. I knew nothing about this film. That's usually how I watch movies, with minimal knowledge. But here's a screenshot from it. I mean, look at that buzzsaw in the background. Is that on somebody's hand? But this is post-apocalyptic zombie adjacent. Ryan, she says the one with Rowdy Roddy Pop. Yeah, that's They Live. That's not a zombie or post-apocalyptic movie, but it's a pretty solid movie. I can't believe it got made. We talk about it pretty frequently. This was 2008, so this is prior to our 2011 line of demarcation of the fall of everything, of movies, of culture. So movies made before 2011 can still be good. Post 2011, it's slim pickings. So this was 2008, and it's actually a pretty original. Well, I don't want to say original. Original in its juxtaposition. Let's put it that way. Reed Deeply says, OMG, Xena meets Gilligan's Island. I mean, I can't even. So, okay. I don't know if I should spoil this. Sarah Catherine says Night of the Living Dead. The original? Or the 1990 version? Is it 90 or 91? The 90 or 99 or 91 version is one of my favorites. But before I get to my favorites, let me get through the Doomsday, because this is one of the most interesting, disappointing movies I've ever seen. See, the thing is, some of these spoilers might actually get people to watch the movie who wouldn't normally watch it. So I'm actually conflicted on whether how much I should spoil it, because if I don't spoil it, people won't watch it anyway. But if I add some spoilers, it might actually induce people to watch it. There's one big reveal that I did not see coming. I'm conflicted because all right, maybe I really don't know. Oh, this is so tough. This is so tough. Let me do a couple more screen grabs here. I'll do this one, and then you guys can let me know if you want me to keep going with an additional one that I guarantee nobody would have ever seen coming. Read Deeply says, I'm okay with you spoiling it. I'm not actually going to spoil the plot. There's just one aspect of the film which I thought was possibly the most interesting, and just the screenshot will spoil it. Sarah Catherine says the original. You know what? I believe I've seen the original, but I don't really remember it. I think I did. It was really, I remember it being pretty slow. The 1990 version I liked better. Read Deeply says take a vote. I guess we could do a vote. Alright, poll is up. Let's see what everybody wants. Oh, this is going to be fun. So here's a behind-the-scenes image from Doomsday. Very Mad Maxy. So here's the thing. I think I want to spoil one. I don't know if I want to spoil it exactly, but I think I'm gonna end up spoiling it. All right, let's see what the poll revealed. Yes, everybody wants it spoiled. Okay. Pauly Shore for Prez says Zombie Spring Breakers is good. I haven't seen that one. Yeah, Sarah, if you liked Night of the Living Dead, definitely watch the new trilogy. So there's Day 1990, and then they remade the remake trilogy. So that's that's Night 1990, Dawn of the Dead 2004 2005, and then they also remade Day of the Dead. I didn't really like that remake as much as the original Day. But Night and Dawn, it's hard. I possibly like the remake more. The first two remakes more. All right, let's get some spoilers. So this is all the same movie. This is all the same movie. A few more screenshots here. This is all the same movie. Let me just say that again. This is all the same movie. Can you imagine that all of these screenshots are from the same movie? This is the same movie. It's a brilliant film, but it's a little frustrating because, yeah, I mean, there's issues with it. There's issues with it. There's issues with it. You guys want some more screen grab? I mean, this is just a totally bonkers film. It is absolutely bonkers. So you have Road Warrior, Mad Max 2 type things going on. You have high-tech shootouts with fully automatic weapons. And you have knights in armor. It is all the same movie. I mean, quite the tale. Quite the tale. I'm gonna do one more screen grab because it's just absolutely hilarious. I'm not gonna spoil too much for the people that want to see it. But it definitely had potential. It could have been one of the all-time greats. So don't get your hopes up too much, but originality-wise, it's interesting, let's put it that way. It's being real slow on getting this last screen grab up there. This is all the same movie. Believe it or not. This is all the same movie. Okay. There's car chases. There's definitely some Mad Max going on. There's some Land of the Dead vibes. There's medieval combat. There's kung fu. I mean, it's a wild ride. It could have been really good. It could have been really good. No, there's no time travel, unfortunately. Or interdimensional reptilian shapeshifters or Bigfoot. That would have been awesome. Reed Deeply says I might watch it. It's interesting. It's definitely super super interesting. Could have been one of the greats, but there's some issues in the second half of the movie. So, okay, I don't even know where I would rank it. Okay, so my bonus points for anybody who can pick my top zombie/zombie adjacent movie, my favorite. Actually, I don't even know what my favorite is. Well, I'm gonna have to split these up because it's pretty tough. This one kind of rekindled zombie movies, so people can probably guess what it is just from that intro. Ryan, she says, is that 007? My favorite zombie movie, 007? What? Who has not seen 28 Days Later? I mean, the atmosphere of this movie might be it might have the best atmosphere, if we're going atmosphere only. Yeah, there's some kung fu in Doomsday, believe it or not. It kind of comes out of nowhere, too. I mean, I guess everybody should watch it. If you appreciate cinema, you need to watch Doomsday. Doesn't mean it's a great movie. So, who's seen 28 Days Later? So, this one's technically not zombies. It's infected. They have a virus. And the rules of this world is that they will eventually die if they don't feed, so they can starve to death, whereas a true zombie doesn't really starve to death. They could just keep going forever, which is an interesting question because how do they remain animated? Now, some zombie lore kind of tackles it as, well, they just go eat animals, and they could survive off of, like, squirrels. They don't necessarily need to kill humans, so they could survive for a really long time. But logistically, there are issues there. Other rule sets are the zombies specifically need human brains. They need to feed on brains specifically, not necessarily the rest of the flesh. Reed Deeply says, I saw it, but it didn't stick. I'd remember it if I see it again, though. Obese Tuna says, hi, hello. Yeah, 28 Days Later is a very interesting vibe. It's probably one of the most well-acted zombie movies. Like, it really draws you into England, infected post-apocalyptic England. Now, unfortunately, the sequel, so spoilers incoming. So I actually just watched 28 Weeks Later recently, even though it came out. When did this come out? 28 Weeks Later came out in 2007, so quite a while ago. Also before the line of demarcation of 2011. And 28 Days Later... 28 Days, was that 2003-ish? ...2002. So 28 Weeks Later, 2007. Wow, not that many years after the first one. For some reason, I thought it was even longer. This one was pretty disappointing. The opening scene was really good. And then just logistically, it all completely collapses because it doesn't make any sense. It kind of went full retard, plot-wise. I don't even know if I necessarily want to spoil it for those that have seen it, but just plot-wise, the logistics of the military and everything. This is one of the first movies, one of the only movies I actually remember. So basically, 28 weeks later, the virus apparently, supposedly, everybody died from the virus. So they're not zombies, they're infected. The infected all starved to death and died by 28 weeks, by whatever, 20 weeks or however long it took. So 28 weeks, they're actually bringing people back into London. They're repopulating because supposedly all the infected died. And the setup is okay, and then the second half just completely falls apart logistically. Obese Tuna says London probably has more third world zombies. Oh, man. Read Deeply says, yeah, watched them when they came out. Didn't realize it's been 20 years. Yeah, crazy. I also just recently watched 28 Years Later, which was complete garbage. I mean, again, a decent premise. I mean, plot-wise, the premises are decent. They just have no execution. And for those that don't know, the original plot of 28 Days Later was even more interesting. Because instead of the final act with the military, they actually were it stayed isolated with only a couple people, and they were actually going to try to do a blood. So this isn't part of the official movie, so it's not a spoiler. It was just ideas they had for an alternate final act, script-wise. They never filmed any of this. They were going to do a blood transfusion to kind of bring back one of the main characters, which is interesting. I don't know if we've seen that in a zombie movie before. So there's a lot of interesting ideas that were in 28 Days Later. And even though it was a solid movie, 28 Weeks was trash. 28 Years Later, again, a very interesting premise. And the fourth movie just came out, 28 Years Later, Bone Temple. I have not seen it. I don't know if I would want to watch it just based on how horrible 28 Years Later is. So a very decent premise where, I mean, I don't know if it even, I mean, I don't even know how decent it is. So plot-wise, and I think this is revealed in the plot synopsis. I don't know if this is a spoiler. So the rest of the world moved on, and they just sealed off Britain. They just sealed off Britain. And just left everybody to their own devices. And all the other countries just carried on into the modern era. So the rest of the world's practically the same. I don't know. It's kind of weird, but an interesting idea. So now they have like these, there's a village with all these survivors, and then they go out to the mainland, and interesting things happen. But it's just downright nonsensical after the setup. The setup is decent. Read Deeply says, this is what happens when you don't want to spend money on good writers. So I think, I don't know what so Danny Boyle, I mean, it's like he's got really good ideas, but the execution's just not there. Even in the first one, if you compare it to the original ideas, it's like what they didn't film was even better than what they filmed. So, Danny Boyle... Okay, so he directed 28 Years Later. He did not direct Bone Temple. So, who directed Bone Temple? Nia DaCosta. This is kind of DEI director. So, she's this... See, that's what happens when you go DEI. You don't know if they actually... are competent in any way. So this is a black female director who directed the remake of Candyman. I didn't see that. Did anybody see that? Is the remake of Candyman good? Because I mean, who knows? If it's good, but I'm surprised I actually didn't watch it. I really do like the original Candyman. It's pretty cool. So, possible DEI director. But again, 28 Years Later was so bad, I don't know if I want to watch the new one. So, yeah, some people believe that this franchise is the best of zombie-adjacent, of infected films. I'm not sure. And by I'm not sure, I mean it's definitely not. I mean, it just, the new, like, and again, even the new one, it has some cool, tense moments, some very interesting plot devices, and some emotional scenes, but overall it's such a mess. It's just such a complete mess. Just doesn't make a lot of sense. But okay, so let's move on to Night of the Living Dead, the 1990 version. So this is Tom Savini's remake of the original Night of the Living Dead. And this one, I'm trying to remember, is this the first zombie movie I've ever seen? Back in 1990. I'm trying to remember if I've seen a zombie movie before this one. Actually, Dawn of the Dead, I guess, was probably the original. Dawn of the Dead was at 78, was probably. Read Deeply says, I vaguely remember the second Candyman. Was it good? I mean, I hadn't heard anything about it being good. I would think I would have heard it. Read Deeply says, giving away your age, Bruce. Am I? I never said I saw anything in the theater, my friend. I'm just saying when I saw it. Read Deeply says it was okay. I'm trying to remember what was the first zombie movie I've ever seen. Not which year that I saw it. So, Night of the Living... so, Dawn of the Dead 78 might have actually been the first one. And then Return of the Living Dead is also really fun. But let's talk about Night and Dawn. So, Zack Snyder's Dawn of the Dead 2004... I probably would pick this as my best, as the best overall. Everything from production value to story to acting to editing to music. I probably would put Dawn of the Dead 2004 as the best zombie movie. This is not zombie adjacent. This is pure zombie. So these are the undead. And so this group of survivors gets stuck at a mall. Or I don't know about, I guess stock. You could use stock. They go to a mall, and they're at the mall. And what's interesting about Dawn of the Dead is you put yourself in that situation. What would you do? And then, of course, we do have to talk about fast zombies. One of the other reasons why 28 Days Later, even though fast zombies were originally from Night of the Living Dead 85. But, yeah, fast zombies are pretty scary. Although some people think the slow zombies are scarier because you have more time to think about what's going to happen to you and how you're going to be torn apart slowly and painfully. But let's talk logistics here. So let's say you're trapped in a mall. Now, the mall does have a pretty decent amount of supplies. Now, I don't know if it would last decades and decades, but it would last a pretty long time. There's a lot of different types of stores. There's entertainment, there's games, there's food. And I kind of forget what was going on with their electricity situation. I haven't seen this one in a number of years. I'll probably watch it again, actually. I'll probably watch it again. Might watch it tonight. Obese Tuna says, Dawn of the Dead remake was actually quite a decent movie, but of course the original was very good. Yeah, the original Dawn from 78 was probably the best zombie movie at that time. Very well acted, solid plot. There's 3 different versions, I believe. I watched the original theatrical, the extended, but there's also another cut that I might not have seen, the Cannes cut. Obese Tuna says, the mall concept seems idyllic. Read Deeply says, back when we had malls. Okay, so And now malls are a dead zone. Was that predictive programming but based on Dawn of the Dead? Okay, so what would you do if you're stuck at the mall? Do you leave the mall and go for help, possibly causing the death of almost everybody? Or do you just stick it out at the mall, but unknown, completely unknown if help would ever come? So yeah, that's quite the conundrum, and this movie really handled that tension and those decisions really well. It had a nice cast of different characters, each with their own idiosyncrasies and opinions, which worked really well. I mean, I can't remember the last time a movie had a cast that did such a good job. Look at this motley crow. And so you're stuck in the mall. It's surrounded by zombies, but you have plenty of ammunition too. There's a gun store and everything. Reed Deeply says, if it's worse outside than inside. Well, see, it's kind of unknown because that's one of the things that make zombie movies so interesting, these post-apocalyptic zombie movies, because you don't really know what's going on in the rest of the world. Now, supposedly most of the world, or at least the major cities, might have fallen, but I've also never really seen a movie that kind of where the military handled it quite well, because there would be they'd be on aircraft carriers, submarines, I mean artificial islands. I mean, like, what happened to all the military and submarines during a zombie apocalypse? Like, they obviously have radios, so they know what's going on the mainland. So, what happened to all those personnel? Do they go to an island, an artificial island base, underground bunkers? Like, they should have made a movie. I mean, Day of the Dead was in an underground bunker, but it was disconnected from, obviously the majority of all military, submarines, all these other bases. So, nobody's really handled that well. I want to watch a movie where they kind of handle that. Sarah Catherine says, I miss the cookie store I would go to in the mall all the time. It's no longer there. Yeah, I mean, there was so much fun to be had at malls back in the day. I mean, I can understand how people would maybe start to go crazy in the mall, but again, is it preferable to risk your life trying to leave the mall and go elsewhere? Because again, like, the unknown variable here, like, that's kind of key, because you don't really know if there's a place where that's safe, like possibly a whole city or other military basement or bases or encampments or whatever, if it was contained. So because if you stay in the mall, you might have to live out the rest of your days in the mall. And eventually you might run out of food. I mean, I don't know apparently there was a lot there. I mean, you could probably make it for years. I don't know about decades, but years. You could probably easily do 1, 2, 3, maybe 5 years. And so is the best play maybe to wait longer, a year, 2, 3, and then if nothing happens, you risk it and leave? I mean, I don't know, because they left kind of early. Let's see how long they were at the mall for. About a month. So that's almost nothing. So yeah, I mean, definitely I think it might have made sense. It might have made sense to stick around longer. But I don't know how long. I mean, again, is there really enough food there to last indefinitely for decades? I don't remember the actual inside, the whole inside of the mall and how much food they had. But supposedly there was a lot. And then, of course, you could still venture out and loot places, find food elsewhere, and then come back to the mall with that being the goal, as opposed to just leaving permanently and risking it that way. So there's mediary steps you could also take. But what would everybody do? Leave or go? And these are the questions that make this movie particularly interesting, the way it was all handled and the dramatic tension, which is missing from a lot of other movies. But the 1990 Night of the Living Dead, that one was also really good. love the atmosphere, just the creepiness of it all, and you kind of make your stand in a farmhouse, and eventually maybe you have to leave as well, depending on, like, a farmhouse is much more easily overrun than a mall if you properly fortify the mall. So Reed Deeply says, if no one else is trying to get in, that means outside isn't good, right? Or people would be coming like normal. No rescue means it's scary out there. Well, yeah, I mean, it's kind of tough because if the mall's surrounded by zombies, people wouldn't necessarily be trying to go to that particular mall if there's just zombies all around. If they have a helicopter, maybe, but they were only there a month. I mean, who knows? If another few months passed, maybe there would be another helicopter group that landed there, especially with their signs of help alive, etc. But yeah, fascinating questions. Like, I remember when the movie first came out, there was endless discussion over this. Most people said they would just stay at the mall. But it's not that easy. I mean, I think definitely I would have stayed for more than a month, though. Like, a month might not be enough time to contain a vast zombie apocalypse. Might take 6 months. But yeah, at a certain point, I mean, I don't know if I'd want to live out the rest of my days for decades and decades in a mall. At that particular mall with the end of the world. Potentially. Because there could be potentially, it could have been contained and other areas could be safe even if if the government completely collapsed, infrastructure might never be actually restored, but there could be safe encampments elsewhere. You wouldn't know. Obese Tuna says, I think they had diesel generator, plenty of food, all the consumer crap you want. What's not to love? Reed Deeply says, we used to fantasize about it in 1971. So yeah, this is probably my pick for the best zombie movie. Alright, what else did we not go over? Here's another zombie adjacent. So, I watched this pretty recently, too. I've been on a zombie kick. Extinction 2015, one of the worst movies in history. Nobody should ever waste their time with this garbage. With this complete garbage. So, on paper, it's a half-decent concept. Zombie apocalypse, they really don't show much of it. Just one opening scene, relatively crappy, and then they just immediately fast forward 9 years? Something like 9 years, and they just never went more than a few miles beyond their home in the frozen Arctic. So, not in the Arctic. I mean, it's somewhere, I don't know, I forget where it is. It's in the US somewhere, but it's always winter. So they didn't even bother going south. So I don't know if this apocalyptic event, they never even explained it. And spoilers, but nobody should ever watch this movie anyway. I mean, if you really want to find out how bad it is, but yeah, nobody should ever watch it. And it's not like there was extremely low budget either. I mean, it was definitely on the low end, but the production value was there to actually make it decent if they wanted to. So apparently, I don't know if it was the zombie apocalypse somehow coincided with some kind of climate apocalypse where it's just a new ice age. I don't know because they never explained it. It's unknown if they travel south, if it's also all snow all the time. But anyway, the final act. So the main thing here is the zombies also supposedly starved to death, possibly, because supposedly they don't exist anymore. They all died. But then there was some kind of mutating or evolving of the zombie. So now they're this like supernatural, I don't know. There's some kind of like monster cryptid creature that's like a snow zombie, and the bites of the snow zombie do not infect you, which is weird. They never explained that either. So it's just a hodgepodge of nonsense, and I'm gonna spoil the ending because it's so horrible. So apparently, out of nowhere, one night, and also apparently they're highly sensitive to loud music, so they just start playing like rock music later when they attack the home, and they all like grab their ears. But anyway, So apparently they run into like another survivor only a couple miles away that turns out they heard their radio transmission that they've been transmitting for 9 years, but supposedly nobody ever heard it. And she says that there's a town just 50 miles away that's like some kind of safe haven or whatever. 50 miles. So not only in the course of 9 years, not a single traveler picked up their radio transmission for 9 years. You're not going to travel. I mean, if you travel at least, you could explore at least 10, 20 miles. I mean, that's kind of status quo for almost any post-apocalyptic movie. You got to kind of know what's going on in the surroundings, the terrain, scout the area. You would see other people. So they spent 9 years holed up when there was a town 50 miles away, supposedly. They didn't even show it at the end. But this kind of nonsense, I mean, this is just one of the worst pieces of garbage ever made. And I like bad movies, but this is just something else. And it's actually reasonably well acted too. I mean, I'm not going to say the acting was bad. The acting actually was not bad. It's just the plot was just some of the worst plotting I've ever seen. And there's only even like one real zombie attack. Like it's like one minor attack with one zombie or evolved zombie whatever. And then there's only one other attack later. I mean, it's just complete trash. Complete trash. So anyway, nobody should watch that. And what else we got? The girl with all the... And it's 2015 again, past the 2011 line of demarcation. Coincidence? I think not. So what else do we have? Zombieland, those were all right. World War Z was all right. I mean, I probably should rewatch that one. Warm Bodies had some new ideas. But yeah, I mean, these or Night of the Living Dead 1990, Dawn 2004 are pretty much my picks for the best. 28 Days Later possibly had the best vibe. So, what does everybody else pick here? I mean, the other thing that's kind of weird is there really aren't a lot of high-budget zombie movies. I mean, there's a lot of low-budget schlock trash, but you would think, I mean, post-apocalyptic movies, there are a lot more. Yeah, I mean, there really are not a ton. I'm also surprised there really aren't a lot of zombie vampire crossovers. I mean, they've done the werewolf vampire crossovers a lot. Reed Deeply says undecided. Austin MP says I like Zombieland. Yeah, the first one was good. The first Zombieland was good. The second one was kind of crappy. I need to rewatch World War Z. I believe I saw the original when it first came out, the theatrical. Then I watched the... Is it the director's cut or the... whatever, the... unrated, the extended unrated, whatever. I need to watch that one again. I remember it being relatively interesting. Warm Bodies was also, I do remember they tried to be original with it. It's like a zombie romantic comedy. Horror zombie romantic comedy. Now, keep in mind, this is, soundtrack it's 2013, so it's beyond the 2011 line of demarcation. And, you know, they tried to do something original with it, but... Okay, Obese Tuna says Dawn of the Dead would be my pick. 78 or 2004. Both good picks either way. I don't even want to rewatch Warm Bodies. I remember they were trying to do something different with it. Show the humanity of a zombie. I don't know, kind of weird. I mean, I don't know. I do remember the soundtrack being interesting. So yeah, I don't know. I'd probably end up just rewatching Dawn of the Dead 2004. Obese Tuna says, I can't recall the title, but the Romero movie after the original Dawn was very good. Are you talking about Day of the Dead? Or how many non-zombie movies did Romero make? Has anybody seen his more recent ones? Because he did like 5 more in the series. One of them I think might have been found footage. I mean, they all look really bad with, pretty bad with lower budgets. But he did Land of the Dead. I believe he did he? With, Leguizamo. Let's see here. So there was Survival of the Dead, Diary of the Dead, so that's 0709. Land of the Dead was 2005, so he did direct Land of the Dead 2005. I thought the ending was interesting, not going to spoil it, but Land of the Dead was not that bad, not that great either. So let's see, he did Dawn in 78, he did Night Riders immediately after Dawn, that would be 81. I have not seen this. A medieval reenactment troupe struggles to maintain its family-like dynamic amid pressure from local authorities, interest from talent agents, and the king's delusion of grandeur. It actually sounds pretty cool. I'm surprised I haven't seen it. Then he did Creepshow 82, Day of the Dead 85. So he's done a number of. He might have actually done more non-zombie movies than. It looks like he did more non-zombie movies than zombie movies. Interesting. Obese Tuna says 78 probably, but they were both good. Yeah, I mean, I'd probably go with 04 just because of the polish, but 78 was definitely creepier. 78 was creepier. Yeah, you gotta hand it to 78, the 78 version. It's creepier. The 04 is more polished. Rude Deeply says that sounds good. Okay. So yeah, I mean, so how much of this is all Illuminati propaganda prepping for the next reset? And again, does anybody else just find post-apocalyptic movies fascinating? There's just something fascinating about them. It's almost like some kind of genetic memory callback. Obese Tuna says, I think it was Day of the Dead. Yeah, that's the military bunker one. I didn't like that one as much. I didn't like the original Day or the remake Day, which was 2008. There's also a Day of the Dead TV series? Huh, never even heard of this. 2021. Kind of looks like low budget garbage, but I've never heard of any of these people, so. There's also Day of the Dead Bloodline 2017. Small group of military personnel and survivalists dwell in an underground bunker as they seek to find a cure. Is that a sequel? Sounds like an unofficial or possibly official sequel to Day of the Dead remake. I have not seen this one. Okay. Not sure I want to. Like most of these. Yeah, it looks pretty low budget. I don't know. For some reason, I just don't like low budget zombie movies. I can handle a lot of low budget, but low budget zombie just I need some decent budget. I need production value. Reed Deeply says, if Eyes Wide Shut is a documentary, maybe you're right, Bruce. Reed Deeply says, the medieval troop one, I want to see it, yeah. I'm surprised there aren't more medieval zombie movies. I think there was one. I don't remember it. Reed Deeply says, these are our training manuals. Yeah. Yeah, for sure. It seems like there is going to be some kind of reset if there isn't already. Now, the question is most of the population going to be wiped out? By what means is it going to be wiped out? Is it going to be a whole bunch of different means? One of which will be some kind of zombie-like plague. I mean, when they had those people on bath salts eating people, what was that, 10 years ago now? More than 10 years ago? Yeah, that seemed like it was the beginning of some kind of zombie apocalypse, and then that just kind of disappeared from the news. I mean, I don't know. Is that still going on? Some people will say a recent medical treatment zombifies people, and it's in the blood. And that's going to cause the end of the world, which is creepy to think about as well. But what is everybody's final thoughts? I mean, it seems like most people are going the Romero route for best zombie movies. I still have to give credit to the original 28 Days Later, because that atmosphere, it really was interesting and creepy in a way that I'm not sure any other movies were. Reed Deeply says, were bath salts a psyop? I don't know. But it definitely wasn't, I don't think it was a long psyop. They definitely could have ran with the psyop more. I'm going to leave this with possibly the greatest prank from the OG original YouTube prankster. This was quite funny. Quite funny. Highly dangerous, though, because you don't know how people are going to react. Especially in certain areas. I laughed pretty hard when I first saw this. Jeff Hunt says, death is the currency of fear. It looks for everything that buys it and holds on. That's poetic. Yeah, this one was something special when it first came out. I mean, I don't know how long ago this was now. Way over a decade, if I remember correctly. I think it might have been, let's see, what year was this? They might say it in the video. But, yeah, thanks everybody for joining us. I hope everybody enjoyed another discussion in Hollywood movies. Always some kind of an Illuminati psyop, predictive programming, some reveals going on, or is it all mere coincidence all the time? Catch you guys next time. I forgot how funny this was. Fair use, obviously. I mean, this is Vitaly, the OG prankster, on YouTube, just going around acting like a zombie to random people. I mean, I don't know how he didn't get shot. These people look absolutely terrified. You know what's weird? I mean, are they thinking they're gonna beat this guy up, or this guy has some kind of blood-borne illness that they don't want any part of whatever his blood is? Man, he cleared out that whole court so quick. Help! Have you ever seen a mass of people run that fast from a guy with no weapon? Man, that guy's scaling the fence. Wait, so now they all just ran after him? That was kind of weird, but do they really want to touch him? It's kind of weird. Obese Tuna says in the States, I'm surprised they didn't bust the cap. Yeah, it's Miami. Downtown Miami. But look how fast he cleared them out initially. I mean, that's the fastest clear out of by an unarmed man I've ever seen. All right. Catch you guys next time.